Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, and our esteemed participants from India and Ghana, and all of those who are joining us from around the world, a very, very warm welcome on this special webinar on World Breastfeeding Week, which is being organized as a part of the India Ghana Public Health Series, which is the first of its kind ever. I hope we'll be doing many such series in future on covering various topics regarding the public health. So throughout this webinar, we will delve into the crucial role of breastfeeding in fostering strong bonds between mothers and infants, while we'll also explore the remarkable impact of the breastfeeding on maternal and child health, nutrition, and its overall development. So, our esteemed panel of experts, they will share their invaluable insights, evidence-based research, and their best practices to empower us all with the knowledge that we need to create a comfortable and supportive environment for breastfeeding mothers at work and at home. So, to start with, first of all, a warm welcome to all our speakers and heartful, grateful thanks to the organizers, especially the Center for Health and Disease in Mangalore, in India, and the Edward and Cynthia Institute of Public Health for giving us all the technical support that we needed. So, not delaying on further, I would move on to our first speaker, that is Miss Gifty Doku. She's the founder and CEO of Women's World of Health in Ghana, and she's a strong women's health advocate. She's a medical practitioner and a very, very dear friend. She'll be speaking on the importance of breastfeeding for the lactating mothers, and she'll be concerning with the impact of the lactation, the breastfeeding on the mothers, and what challenges they are facing at work. And so she'll be discussing all those aspects. So moving on to Ms. Gifty Doku, I hand over the screen to you, please.
Hello. Good morning from Ghana.
We can't hear you. I think you need to switch on your mic.
It's on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hi, good morning. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sir, you turned off her mic. We can't hear. Yeah. Sir, we can't hear her. She can log out and log in, no? Isha is shouting from.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Hello. Yes, so to move on, sorry for that. I think it's just network, I don't know. But thankfully, I'm back. So, as I mentioned, if you are in a position to breastfeed, then it means you need to do it and do it with all joy because it is not just for the benefit of your baby, but also for your benefit as well and for the world, I might say, at large. I think you get to understand this better as we progress with our discussion. Um, Remember that not all mothers are in the position to breastfeed. Some may be due to medical conditions, others may also be to their physical state. So I say again that if you are in the position to breastfeed, then you must do it and do it well. It can be for medical reasons that some people are not able to breastfeed. Okay, so thankfully I'm a breastfeeding mom, and so I can talk from personal experience as well. In as much as I use my professional education to go through this lesson. I remember having to deal with nipple sores with my first child, and it wasn't a good experience. And so that I might say that if you are breastfeeding, breastfeeding is a technical activity. And so if you need help, you need to seek help and seek from the right person. You can talk to your obstetrician, you can talk to breastfeed. Now, talking about of importance to
What?
the mother and to the family and to the world at large.
They should
Now,
mention in the chat.
my
At least we can
discussion
read.
more will be focused on the mother. Now, the benefits of breastfeeding to the mother comes with medical importance benefits, it comes with psychological benefits, and also with emotional benefits. Now, when something is good and it's free, I'm sure we would all want to jump onto it. Now, this is the same with breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is highly economical and it comes naturally. Okay, you don't have to pick cash and move into a store, neither do you have to undergo any special medical procedure with your obstetrician or your doctor or anybody for milk production. It just comes naturally immediately baby comes, even though you need to initiate the process. Okay, and so I must say that if you have the opportunity to breastfeed and breast milk is flowing, then you are blessed. And so it means that you need to make good use of it because if you are not breastfeeding, then it means you are going to do with formula, and formula comes with its expense as well. So why don't you save yourself a good 6 months without buying formula and rather investing that money for the years ahead of your child? So one of the very benefits of breastfeeding to the mother is economical benefit. You get to save time. You don't have to go to the kitchen to prepare meal for your baby. It just comes naturally.
It's
You just
funny.
have to put your baby at the nipple for your baby to suck, do all the work, and then it just breast milk flows for baby to enjoy and have good nutrition. You don't have to go into the kitchen to set up your gas or your burner or your cooker for any process of cooking. It just comes naturally. So it's going to save you a lot of time. Now imagine you have to move out of the house planning that you are going to spend 4 hours in town and then you pack baby food, and unfortunately, you have stuck in traffic. Now, what happens to you? The only saving thing can be breast milk. So, in that situation, you can imagine being suffocated in the car with your baby, being in a hunger situation, and you can imagine how irritable child will be. Now, breastfeeding can save you in this situation. So it saves you from some emotional stress when your child is hungry. And it saves you time, it saves you money. You don't have to just stop in the middle of the traffic to even go and jump into a shop to say you are going to buy something, some food stuffs for your child to feed on. Now, breastfeeding also comes with some medical benefits as well. And now, each time I mention the benefits of breastfeeding, I would want to highlight on the importance that when we talk about breastfeeding, breastfeeding is not feeding your baby with formula from a bottle. It's about putting your baby to suck from your breast, your nipple, and in as much as you are sucking from the nipple as well, it's very important because WHO has recommended, and American Pediatrician Association has also recommended the need for exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. That is to say that you are not giving the child anything apart from the breast milk, because the breast milk is made up of water. It is made up of all the nutrients that your child needs in their early life to grow and grow well. So, if I say breastfeeding, then this is what we mean by breastfeeding. And some of these medical benefits is the fact that breastfeeding can reduce your risk of breast cancer, it can reduce your risk of ovarian cancer, and it can also reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. Now, someone may ask, how does this happen? Now, breastfeeding causes some sort of hormonal changes in a woman's body that delays the menstrual periods. Okay, and so it means that within this period of time, the woman's lifetime exposure to hormones like estrogen, which can promote breast cancer cells growth, is reduced. Okay, and in addition, you get to shed some sort of breast tissue during breastfeeding, and so this shedding is likely related to the fact that it's removed probable potential DNA damaged breast tissues that can lead to breast cancer. Breastfeeding can also reduce your risk of ovarian cancer. And that is to say that during breastfeeding, you are reduced, as I said, there are hormonal changes that happens, and therefore it reduces your exposure to estrogen. And so it prevents ovulation from taking place. And so it means that the less you ovulate, the less exposure you add to estrogen and abnormal cells that can become cancer. Some studies have made conclusions that they've compared women who are breastfeeding to women who are not breastfeeding. And like I said, breastfeeding, as we are talking about here, has to do with even the duration. Okay, so some studies made us understand that women who has breastfeed for over 12 months have some reduced chance of getting breast cancer by 4.3%. And a study also done in Australia has made us understand that they compared women who has breastfeeding for over 12 months, over 13 months, to women who has breastfed for less than 7 months. And it's been concluded that those women have had a 63% reduced chance of getting ovarian cancer. Yes, and so these are some medical benefits that you can get from breastfeeding as a mom. And you tend to have some emotional benefits as well, like getting attachment with your child. Breastfeeding is a moment for bonding with your baby, because during breastfeeding you tend to look at your baby, you tend to stare at your baby's face, you can communicate with your child during breastfeeding, and you realize that this gives you opportunity to get close to the child. The child also gets to have an attachment with you, and it builds up the bonding as the child grows. So in general, breastfeeding is very important, and is very important to the mother, is very important to the baby, and is very important to the family. When the woman is in good state of health, when the woman is happy, the home is, it also reflects in the family. And so the whole family tends to enjoy this environment of happiness, this environment of peace, this environment of good health. And generally, it affects society and the world at large. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Dr. Vinit. So I would want to conclude here by saying that breastfeeding is important, and it's important to the mother. It reduces the mother's risk of medical conditions such as cancers like breast cancer, such as ovarian cancer, such as and also type 2 diabetes. And it reduces costs. Where you may bringing a child to this world is expensive in this economical state in which we are. And so if you are saving yourself 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding and complementary breastfeeding for more than 13 months, then you are saving some kind of money which can help the child in the later stage of life. And so I want to encourage every mom who is on this page with us this morning that continue to breastfeed. Is not easy, but little by little, you'll be adjusted to the process, and your baby will also get adjusted to the process. You benefit, your baby benefits, your family benefits, and the world at large benefits from breastfeeding. Thank you very much for the audience.
So thank you, Gifty. Thank you so much for this, for your mention, for mentioning such enlightening, facts about the breastfeeding, which is important for the mother's health as well as for the babies. And as you mentioned, that it protects the mothers from breast cancer, ovarian cancer, type 2 diabetes. And most importantly, I think the fact that you mentioned it is important for the overall development of the mother, not only on the health aspect but also on psychological aspect. Like there's a bonding between the child, and she feels more confident. And that is, I think, what we all are here to promote: the confidence in the mothers to breastfeed their babies for more and more, because sometimes they lack confidence that they might I might not be having so much of milk, my glands are not producing so much of milk, that is not getting, so my child is not getting the appropriate nutrition that my baby wants. So yes, that point was very important for all of us. So moving on further, I would like to invite on board my second speaker. She's a very renowned pediatrician, Dr. Samira Yamulia. She is a pediatrician here at Ghana, and she works at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. She's also a member of Ghana College of Physicians, and she'll be speaking on the benefits of breastfeeding for infants. So, yes, Dr. Samira, over to you now, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vinit, for the introduction. Um, I prepared a few slides just to guide the presentation. I'm going to share it now so that. So I think, can we all see the slides, please? It's just going to guide the presentation.
Yes, please. We all can see it. You can go ahead.
Okay. So, I am, yeah, Dr. Vinit introduced me. I'm Samira Yamioli. I'm a pediatrician in Ghana. I work at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. So, a brief introduction. Breastfeeding is, according to the World Health Organization, breastfeeding is one of the most effective ways to ensure child health and survival. And it's recommended that a newborn baby from day of life to 6 months should exclusively be breastfed. And this doesn't include other medications like vitamins and oral rehydration fluids that baby may need from time to time. Okay, and it has both great benefits to both mother and child, as my co-speaker has already said. So, to be able to talk about benefits of breastfeeding, I want to talk about a component of breast milk. Um, Composition of breast milk contains about over 200 different components. About 90% of breast milk is water. So, a child doesn't need any additional water if baby is going to be exclusively breastfed. It contains fats, especially long chain fatty acids, which help with brain development, and carbohydrates such as lactose and oligosaccharides, which are very easily digested and help with baby's growth. Proteins like casein, whey, and lactoferrin, which are also very easily digested by a baby's immature gut. It has vitamins and minerals and hormones such as ghrelin, which control hunger and satiety. Contains antibodies, which help to build baby's immune system. That has stem cells, which are age group, and enzymes, which help develop baby's gut, and especially to produce healthy bacteria in the gut to promote good digestion. So this also goes to talk more about the benefits of breastfeeding. So like the content of breast milk. So there's water, as I mentioned, the proteins, the good fats, carbohydrates like lactulose, then antibodies and immune cells. Then lactoferrin, which is very important in iron binding, so it helps the body to easily absorb the iron that's in the feed. And then lysozyme, DHA, which is very important in brain development. And then fat soluble vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, and K. And then hormones and growth factors and good bacteria, as I mentioned, that would help with gut development, the development of gut microbacteria. Sorry. So, benefits of breastfeeding. This is a picture of my dear friend and colleague. She's also a doctor. Shows her breastfeeding her baby. Um, I like this picture very much because it's you can actually see mother holding her baby very close to her. You can see they have good eye contact. Baby is very close to mother, touching mother, and then she's actually feeling the warmth of the mother. So from this picture alone, we can talk about bonding. Okay, mother and baby are going to develop a very strong bond, which would even help in child's development. It's
Uh, Dr. Samira, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please, can you move the slides further? I think we are. Yes, 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 please.
oh,
Thank you.
so on slideshow. So when I go to slideshow, you're unable to see it well.
Yes, initially we were not able to see the picture, but now we can.
Okay, so I'll keep it here. So like I said, this is a colleague doctor with her baby. She's breastfeeding. We can see the bond over here. Mother is looking directly into baby's eyes. Baby is looking directly into mother's eyes. Hands are touching. Body is next to each other, and they can feel. Baby can actually feel mother's warmth. This promotes bonding, and then it's also known that children who are breastfed develop good it helps in their behavioral development, intellectual development, and this bond is one of the reasons why they're able to develop that way. So I'll talk about benefits of breast milk and the benefits of breastfeeding all to the infant. Okay. So as I've mentioned earlier, the breast milk contains the perfect nutrients which are necessary for baby's growth and development. Everything is in there in perfect quantities and very easy, and then it's also easy to digest because the kind of protein and the type of carbohydrates in the mother's milk are very easy to digest by the baby's gut, and so it prevents problems like constipation and excessive gas and all that. Okay, and it's readily available, as my co-speaker said. It's always available. There's no need you don't need any training to breastfeed a baby. Once baby is born, the body naturally responds by producing breast milk. Okay, even though mother needs usually would for especially for new mothers, we need to properly teach them how to properly attach baby to the breast, and then how to feed and position well properly to be able to breastfeed. Otherwise, you don't need any special training to breastfeed. Okay, and it protects against infections, as I've said. Um, you cut out the preparation where Fortunately, in some places here where people do not have good access, do not have access to good water and sanitation to clean bottles and cups and all that, you avoid contaminated cups by just giving breast milk. Apart from the preparation process of formula, there is also the presence of the antibodies in the breast milk, which naturally give the child a good immunity to protect against infections. Okay. Um, and then it also protects against both long and short-term illnesses such as asthma. So it's known that children who are breastfed actually have low levels of allergies, and so they usually have low incidence of asthma and other allergies among children who are breastfed. And then obesity, because we've talked about the right amount of fats and the right amount of carbohydrates present in the breast milk, it helps prevent children from being obese, since the cow's milk usually contains higher amounts of fat, which ends up making the babies obese. It also protects against developing metabolic diseases in future, such as diabetes. Okay, studies have shown that babies who are breastfed have a lower risk of developing these long-term lifestyle diseases in the future, even in adulthood. So, breast milk gives lifelong protection a lot on against illnesses, not just in the infantile period. It's lifelong. And apart from diabetes, yeah, hypertension is also there, and then diarrhea. So, diarrhea we know can be caused by both infections, and then even when the gut is not able to absorb the feed well. So breast milk contains the exact correct amount of enzymes, also contains amount of um, antibodies to prevent infections, and then it also has it's very easily digestible. So most of the nutrients are absorbed, and then it prevents children from having diarrhea. Diarrheal illnesses have a long-term effect of malnutrition, and then it also puts children at risk of getting infections. So prevention of diarrhea alone, this protection of breast milk against diarrhea helps to prevent malnutrition and the risk of getting a lot of infections. Okay. In addition to this, the process of breastfeeding, as we mentioned, helps to promote bonding and development. Then it enhances brain and visual development because child is able to coordinate, is able to recognize mother's face early, and then helps with their coordination, and then their brain also develops quickly. Then also prevents hypothermia. So from the picture I showed you, child is very close to mother, experiencing their mother's warmth, and then helps them to prevent a hypothermia. This is especially important in our preterm babies who are usually very small and have very little fat. Okay, and it improves brain development and intelligence. Okay. So this is another picture just talking about some of the added benefits of breastfeeding. So it naturally suits the baby. It's soothing to the baby because mother's presence and mother's touch and the taste of breast milk suits the baby naturally. So you have a less fussy child, and helps build a strong immune system, as I've mentioned, has the right amount of nutrients for baby's development, and lowers the risk of postpartum depression. So this is in addition to what my co-presenter mentioned earlier. The benefits of breast milk are on end, and there's so many. You can't. It's difficult to exhaust the entire list of benefits. So I want to conclude here by saying breastfeeding is one of the most important child survival strategies, and every mother needs a healthy support system in order to be able to breastfeed successfully, especially in our system where there's a growing number of working women, and there's a need to have a very good support system in order to breastfeed successfully. And not only the support shouldn't be there just at the family level, there's also the need to have national breastfeeding policies that are essential to promoting successful breastfeeding in children. I'd like to end here. It's a very short presentation, I hope.
Yeah, very short but very informative, Dr. Samira. Uh,
Yes.
really had those excerpts from your presentation, which really enlightened us about the benefits of breastfeeding for infants and how breastfeeding is important for their nutrition, for their development overall, and many other aspects that you covered. And the most important aspect that you covered is about the working mothers. I read the one point there about the postpartum depression, that breastfeeding lowers the incidence of postpartum depression, and that is, I think, on a rise in the mothers who are especially working and juggling between, lactating and going to their work. So I think that aspect would be covered out by our next speaker. She's from India, and she is a public health expert, Miss Isha Agarwal. She's also a lecturer and a research officer at the Edward and Cynthia Institute of Public Health. And she is the one who will be throwing light upon the social challenges that are faced by lactating mothers at work, and what solutions we can work upon to make a better place for such women. So, Miss Isha, please over to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Vineet. I have my presentation, so just give me a second.
Yeah, sure. Please take your time.
I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, now they are. Please, you can
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you. So, I'm Isha Agarwal. I'm a lecturer and research officer at Edward and Cynthia Institute of Public Health, India. And today I will be discussing about social challenges and solutions for lactating women at work. And these are the contents that we will be going through today. So before moving directly towards the topic of concern, I would just like to brief on some topics related to our topic. So my co-speakers have given a great explanation on the importance of breastfeeding. I will just summarize it in 3 points. So, breastfeeding or breast milk is the best source of nutrition for infants, their healthy growth, physical and psychological development. It is one of the effective way to ensure child health and survival because breast milk is safe, it is clean, and contain antibodies. Women who breastfeed have a reduced risk of breast and ovarian cancer, and therefore breastfeeding is equally important for both mother and child. Now, as we know and we are aware that the long term impacts of the breastfeeding, so by going in depth we can actually realize the importance of breastfeeding is not limited to only mother and child but the nation as a whole. It reduces the healthcare expenditure and contributes to the nation's economy and by generating the productive workforce. So this is the prevalence of breastfeeding in 2021 by the UNICEF region distribution. So here from this graph, we can actually observe that South Asia has the highest prevalence of breastfeeding, while Middle East and North Africa has the lowest prevalence of breastfeeding with 32%. But this is only for the infant aged 0 to 5 months who are exclusively breastfeed. This data will obviously differ depending on the different indicators of breastfeeding. So, what are the common challenges to breastfeeding? Swollen and sore breast, sore nipple, lack of parental awareness on breastfeeding, inadequate knowledge on breastfeeding position. So, this is one of the points that I would like to point out here, that this challenge of inadequate knowledge in breastfeeding position is really need to be addressed, because there are many parents or the couples who are not at all aware about the breastfeeding positions, and which make women or the mothers go through a lot of psychological changes, that where she actually blame herself of and she feels that she's not capable enough of expressing milk. So at healthcare facility, it is really important that they must counsel the couple on positions of breastfeeding. Next is concern with lactation and latching. lack of family support, and this is one of the emerging issue or a challenge that we will be discussing today, that is social challenges to lactating women at work. So, what in general social challenges mean? It means that any condition or any behavior which have a negative consequences on an individual's profession or at a personal life. And the scenario of lactating women at work is really a great example to understand the social challenges. When a mother returns after post delivery, when a mother returns to work, her ability to breastfeed is significantly compromised because of various factors like lack of breastfeeding breaks, the inaccessibility of quality infant care near the workplace, and the lack of facilities for pumping or storing the milk. As a public health experts or as a public health professionals, we promote the awareness or the awareness surrounding breastfeeding and its importance, which is really crucial. But in addition to this, it is really important that we address the challenges or the barriers to breastfeeding. Why mothers stop breastfeeding? And this concern is significant among the women, among the working women. So, which not only impact her physiologically, psychologically, but it also interferes with her relations with the family due to the lack of support. And ultimately, at a long-term impact, it will obviously impact the overall health and well-being of the mother as well as child. So, today we will be understanding the social challenges to lactating women at workplace through three studies conducted in India, Uganda, and New Hampshire. First study is from India. In the Karnataka state of India, in 2016, a hospital-based cross-sectional study was conducted with the 107 working women, which revealed that only 16% of the working women were practicing exclusive breastfeeding, and more than 80% of them have stopped the breastfeeding due to work. Also, also these women where they were working, 90% of them lacked the facilities for the breastfeeding at workplace. Among the mothers who were not exclusively breastfeeding, 94% of them returned to work within 6 months post delivery, and 64% of them were working for more than 6 hours. Another example is from Uganda, where a community-based cross-sectional study was conducted with 428 lactating mothers in 2018, and these mothers were working in an informal sector. Here, informal sector were market vendors, shop attendants, saloon, restaurants, and agriculture. Prevalence of exclusive breastfeeding was found to be only 43%, and some of the associated factors were working hours. So here we can see that the percentage of working women who are not exclusively breastfeeding their infants, among them about 66% of them were working for more than 8 hours, and about 85% of them have no breastfeeding facilities at work, and even 3% of them only have the area to store expressed milk. And with regards to the spousal support, 81% of them have no spousal support. Moving further to New Hampshire, a cross-sectional study was conducted with 669 mothers in 2016, and from all the different factors that they have considered, there were 4 emerging factors which were workplace factors which were actually positively influencing the breastfeeding practices. They are supportive supervisors, supportive co-workers, private pumping space, and higher pumping break times. So, there are many workplace factors which influences the exclusive breastfeeding, but from the 3 studies that we have mentioned here, there are here I have mentioned few of the factors which actually influences the exclusive breastfeeding. One is working hour. The odd work timings or the odd work duration, it adversely impacts the women preferences for exclusive breastfeeding. It also limits the contact period between the mother and the baby, and in addition to the poor work policies, workplace culture and support, and the lack of breastfeeding facilities at the workplace, it highly it negatively influences the exclusive breastfeeding. Lack of spousal support, it is really important because the breastfeeding or the growth and development of a child is not solely responsibility of a woman. It is a joint responsibility of a couple. So the spousal support is really important, not only for the breastfeeding but also for the support of the mother as she goes through a lot of changes during pregnancy and post pregnancy. Then, along with stigma associated with breastfeeding, cultural practices, pressure on mother, anxiety, difficult breastfeeding, overall it adds on to the challenges towards exclusive breastfeeding, and therefore it is really important to normalize the breastfeeding in order to mitigate the stigma associated with breastfeeding and promoting the breastfeeding at workplace where mother can actually feel normal, comfortable, and will not feel that she has to hide somewhere to breastfeed the baby or express the milk. Now, talking about breastfeeding, it is really important to understand the International Labour Organization Maternity Protection Convention 2000, which mandates that at least 14 weeks of paid leave to the pregnant women and recommended increase to 18 weeks. Recently, UNICEF has, in its current policy brief, has correctly identified that we promote the exclusive breastfeeding, or we recommend exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, and therefore the maternity leave for only 14 weeks or 18 weeks will not be sufficient. Next, women on maternity leave must be provided with cash benefits. Ensure that the pregnant and the nursing mother will not carry any sort of work at the workplace which is harmful for her health or for the health of a child. Protection against discrimination based on maternity. Prohibition from termination of the employment by the employers for the women on maternity leave, with obviously with some exceptions, but the employer cannot terminate the employment of the or the tenure of the working woman because she is absent. Then women returning to the work should join at the same or the equivalent position with the equivalent pay. Provision of one or more than one daily breastfeeding breaks or reduction in the working hour is highly promoted in order to promote the breastfeeding. Now, UNICEF's latest policy brief on family-friendly policy brief recommends that at least 6 months of paid leave for all the parents, combined of which 18 weeks of paid leave should be reserved only for the mothers. So, we have talked about the International Labour Organization, breastfeeding, the challenges at workplace. So, here are some facts which we should know, which are related to the breastfeeding and workplace. So, globally, UNICEF report of 2019 states that only 40% of the women with newborns have minimal maternity benefit at the workplace, in which in Africa, only 15% of these women have any protection to support the breastfeeding continuation. According to the International Labour Organization report, it states that in 2021, there were only 120 countries who were actually following and mandating the duration of maternity leave of at least 14 weeks. However, there were 64 countries where the duration of maternity leave was still below 14 weeks. One-fourth of the world's countries still do not provide breastfeeding breaks at work. And this maternity leave is really important because it has been estimated that the lactating women who are on maternity leave for 6 months or more than 6 months, they were at least 30% more likely to sustain the breastfeeding for at least first 6 months. Moving further, so post delivery, a mother or a woman goes through a lot of changes, a lot of dilemmas, uncertainties, and a lot of scenarios goes around her mind, such as, should I rejoin my job, or maybe I should just resign? Maybe a career break would be fine, or should I just stop breastfeeding my child? Why lactating working mothers have to go through all this, where we can actually provide them a space working, like safe working space, job security, and also her ability to breastfeed her baby, until and unless it is her decision to take a career break. Otherwise, a safe and a comfortable work policies, work facilities, and the support of the family and the co-workers will never give her an option of selecting between the work or her ability to breastfeed the baby. So, what are the solutions to these challenges for lactating women at work? First is raising awareness. But is this raising awareness only limited to the breast education or breastfeeding education to women? No. It means that we have to raise awareness among the community, among the family, because a woman goes through a lot of changes and challenges. So it is the responsibility of everyone to support her during this difficult time. Raising awareness among the women for her right at workplace, her right to work, her right to maternity leave, and her right to breastfeed. Then it is really important that we give education on breastfeeding to the co-workers, because we have seen through the studies that the co-worker support or the supervisor support plays an important role where women feel safe and comfortable in breastfeeding. And it will also, and the along with this, the behavioral change communication for breastfeeding friendly work environment will help us to normalize the breastfeeding at the workplace, and it will also help in reducing the stigma. Because for all of this, it is really important that our co-workers need to be educated or knowledgeable enough to understand the importance of breastfeeding. Strict work policies, yes, work policies are really important, but not only implementation of the strict work policies, but along with that, the monitoring of these work policies is equally important. Then national policies and legislation to protect, promote, and support breastfeeding, along with multi-stakeholder coordination. It plays a really important role because different sectors, different stakeholders contributes in promoting the breastfeeding. And along with this, political will, the involvement of different ministries, different sector, because it is not only the responsibility of health sector to promote the well-being of a mother or a child, or the breastfeeding. Then research and development, it is really important that we promote the research and development to understand the barriers to the breastfeeding, understand the challenges that the lactating women at work faces. And there can be a lot of hidden challenges or the social practices which from both the sides, that is from the work or the employment side, and from the family and the breastfeeding mother's side, that we should address, which will ultimately help in forming or reforming the better policies for lactating women at work. And this lactating women at work not only limited to one sector, whether it's a government sector, private sector, NGOs, academia, or organized sector or unorganized sector. And then maternal and paternal leave. So paternal leave is also equally important because it helps the men or the father to understand his responsibility toward the child, and his responsibility to support her wife as a partner in understanding the importance of breastfeeding and supporting her during breastfeeding and her psychological changes and challenges. So accomplishment of sustainable development goal is really not possible without sustainable breastfeeding practices. So let's contribute towards making breastfeeding work at work. Thank you.
Great. That was a very extensive, informative, and a lovely presentation, Isha. You can now stop sharing your screen with us. Okay, so thank you so much, Isha, for putting such a light and sharing all that data with us. It was very informative, and that too from various parts of the world. And also, I would just like to add 2 points in here. That is, when we are talking about working women, when we are talking about lactation at work, we are talking about all the sectors of work. I mean, we are even talking about the local vendors, the women who go to construction sites, the women who are house helps, and also the women who are going to the corporate sector, or maybe our doctors, health sector, any section of the society. I think they face their own challenges, and every sector has its own challenges to promote breastfeeding. Like if we talk about the vendors and the house helps, the people who work at the construction sites, the migrant workers, these people have that that urge to earn more money, that burden, the financial burden that they face in their lives, that we should go back to work as soon as possible, because some of them are just daily wages, so they are not even able to collect those wages daily, because they are missing on their work, because they have to take care of the child at home and they have to breastfeed. So I think building that social and comfortable environment is very important, especially for the families, for the spouses, as Isha correctly mentioned, and also for the employers as well. And now coming on to the sector, the corporate sector, where women are going on and they want the job security. They are salaried workers. They are working in offices, hospitals, other places. Even though if they have a job security, even though if they are getting the same salary as they were earlier employed on, some portion, or there is some stigma or some mentality that lets them take a back seat at work. I mean, they are not given as much appreciation at work. Their work efficiency is questioned. Their motivation is lacking somehow. All these factors, they tend to make women think that should I take a career break, as she correctly mentioned in that slide, in that pictorial slide, that I'm not performing well at work because I'm lactating, because I am giving my baby the breastfeeding time. So even though if so all these factors, I think we should consider, not only job security, not only the leave as mentioned by UNICEF. Yes, it is very important, but I think when the women, they get back to work fully, their work efficiency should not be questioned. They should, even though you're giving them, because some companies, they say that yes, we are welcoming them, but still, the kind of work they used to do earlier, the kind of projects maybe they used to get earlier, they're not getting that again. So I think that needs to be addressed as well. So yes, very informative session by all our panelists, and we really had a great discussion on this. But now I would like to open the forum for discussion from all our participants who have joined in, whoever want to give their inputs, whoever want to put a question for our speakers, they are please most welcome. We have Harsimran here. She's also a public health expert. Would you like to say something, Simran?
Hello, good morning to all. I'm Harsimran. I'm a graduate student, a public health graduate student from the University of Ghana, and I got this opportunity webinar. I would just say that this was a very educative webinar on breastfeeding. I really gave a lot of things which I did not know about. I would really thank Dr. Vineet for inviting me on this forum, and it was really educative and helpful. Thank you so much. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Simran. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome a very senior member amongst us. She is Dr. Simi Obroi. She is my senior, and she is also a member and facilitator for Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India. So she is a very important part of today's discussion. Dr. Simi, if you can hear me, please, we would like to hear some words from you.
I think I liked the session a lot. It was well-rounded discussion, and they covered many aspects. And yes, you rightly pointed out while she was talking, I wanted to say about what about the unorganized sector, which you have already mentioned. And then the thing is, she mentioned a lot many, and there is a lot of work to be done in many areas, like for the policies. One thing is that we have to talk to the policy makers also, the awareness of the mothers, awareness of the supervisor or the congenial environment at the workplace. Besides that, we ought to have more information regarding the policies and the policy makers, because these 14 weeks or 90 days or 6 months leave, this is only there in the organized sector, which you have rightly projected, and there is we have to talk about that also. And then uh, do the gap analysis, see that where the things are, even if they are there, this breaks are there, but it is actually not happening. We have that during this lactation period, we are having these breaks, and there are no rooms or facilities or the good crèches are available where the children can stay there and they can have the feed whenever the mother is free. But these, at least if I am seeing in my sector, I am not able to see at lot many places. So there is a lot of work needs to be done for us to know that why it is not happening, and then proceed with that evidence based, and then make it into policies, and then have a good method to supervise these things. As she has said that she mentioned, Dr. Isha mentioned that there ought to be supervision also or monitoring also of that. That's it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Simi. You correctly said, and your this views on this issues is very valuable for us. Yes, so the forum is open for questions. Okay, if anybody has any questions to a panelist or on this issue, or anybody would like to add any point, please, you're most welcome. To our speakers also, Dr. Samira, do you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vicky. So I have also learned something from this. In Ghana, our paid maternity leave for the formal sector is just 12 weeks. So I'm actually happy to hear that India is doing 18. So it's actually better than what we have. As all the things that the Pediatric Society of Ghana is really working on, they're trying to get it enforcing policy. If you're going to, if you're asking mothers to breastfeed exclusively for 6 months, then you should actually um, make allowance as a policy for them to be able to stay away from work up to the 6 months. Yes, I've also learned something today. Yeah.
Yes, you rightly said. I think it's 12 weeks. That is, I'm not sure it's paid or something, but
It's 12 weeks. It's paid.
It's paid.
For the formal sector, 12 weeks of pay. And then when you return to work, there are some concessions about time, I mean, the number of hours that you can work. But that also depends on the organization. Because some places do not, it's not really set clearly in the law about how many hours you can work. So it actually depends on where you work. Some workplaces are quite flexible, but others are not much. So, something that the Arctic Society has been working on for a while. They're hoping that very soon can actually implement.
Surely, I hope that if discussions like this and partnerships like this between countries and across the borders continue with such a healthy discussion, I'm sure we'll reach somewhere. So yes, thank you all the participants, and a very, very heartfelt thanks to the panelists who came on board on a very short notice and made this webinar a success. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the technical team of CHD Group and the Edward and Cynthia Institute of Public Health who did all this, because honestly speaking, I would admit I'm not a good technician. I'm not at all at good terms with the technology, but yes, just because of them, all of this could happen. Thank you, Mr. Nishant and the whole team who took over at a very short notice, and they listened to all my demands. Thank you so much for joining us all here. We look forward to having such discussion and additions and even suggestions from all of you on topics to discuss on the India Ghana Public Health series so that we can come up with something new and something informative in future. Thank you all again for joining. I would like to end this webinar session here with a very grateful and a warmful heart. Thank you so much all.